Okay, once again, good morning, everybody. Today we'll look into a small piece that is left in the fourth module. That is error handling and validations. What are errors and exceptions? PHP error reporting, PHP error and exception handling. So if you are aware about the exception handling, that is way it is done in object-oriented programming. If you know about Java programming, how the exceptions are handled, what is the mechanism of that, it is very similar in case of PHP. A very similar concept has been used. Error handling and validations. So for your syllabus, we are going to talk about what are errors and exceptions, PHP error reporting, and PHP error and exception handling. Those are the things that are part of your syllabus. So first one is what are errors and exceptions. So there is a difference between the error and the exception, and as a computer science and engineering student, you should be very well aware. This is one of the important questions that will be asked in many interviews. What is the difference between the error and the exception? So first we'll look into what are the different types of errors that we get. One is these are the different types: expected errors, some are warnings, and some are fatal errors. Expected errors, things that you expect to go wrong. Okay. Maybe because of the bad user input, or maybe because of the database connection. When you are making a database connection, suppose your code, the last lab program we had was about the it was about the database connection and getting the data from the table and sorting. There we saw we were making a database connection. When you are making a database connection, you are the when application making a database connection, we are not aware of the situation, what is the status of the database, whether database is up and running. If it is not, then definitely the database connection will give a error, it will not be able to make a connection. And there are many scenarios where the database connection will fail. uh, let's say the password has been changed and application is not aware about that, or the server is changed. Okay. There are many situations where you will get the that kind of a error, and you will not be aware, aware what is the status of the database. Similarly, uh, based on the user input. So user input, you can take care of certain validation. You can make sure that user enter the way the data is required. But in spite of that, there might be certain situations which will not be able to cover with just the validations. In those cases, there would be some kind of errors. Those are the expected errors. And warnings, as you know, warnings are, it will not cause a failure of the application, but warnings will tell that it is uh, something is not right, but it will not give a error. For example, you are using certain functions in your application which are deprecated. Normally, to certain extent, deprecated functions are supported. When you are using such deprecated functions, it will give an warning. Okay. Until certain stage or until certain versions, and after certain version, that particular function will be removed from that particular package. So warnings, problems that generate a PHP warning message, but will not halt the execution of the page. So your page will load, there will not be any issues, but there will be some kind of warnings. So those are these warnings will not make the application to fail or stop. Next one is the fatal errors. As the name suggests, when fatal errors occur, the execution of the page or the process will stop or it will terminate. Fatal errors are serious in the execution of the page, will terminate unless handled in some way. So fatal error should be handled in some way. For example, runtime error. in one classic example of a runtime error is a division by zero error. Whenever the division by zero happens, if you don't handle that particular situation, the program will stop abruptly at that particular point. So checking user input. So what we can do is we can check the user input, what kind of input user is giving, and we can apply some of the validation in order to make sure that some of the expected errors are handled. Okay. So the two methods that are used is the is set and the second one is empty. When a particular form is submitted, we already know the parameters. Whatever the form entries you have, it will come as a query string, whether it is a get request or whether it's a post request, we will get it as a query string, and we know it is a name and value pair. This is the id on the form. You have a control called id, and user has entered the value, so it will come in the name and the value pair separated by the ampersand. So this is the first parameter that is on the screen. This is the second one. You can see id is equal to 0, name is equal to nothing, means it is basically blank. It will be treated as a null. And name 2 is equal to Smith. This value is name 2 is given as Smith, and name 3 is equal to percent 20. Percent 20, if you remember, it represents a space character. So here there is a space character. So this is represented in the URL encoded way. When you apply is set on each of these keys, each of these parameters, and we know that dollar underscore get is the super global, and using the super global dollar underscore get, we can access all these values by giving the key as the name of those controls or the name of those parameters. So how to get the ID? I will say I will call the function is set dollar underscore get, and I will pass the give the key as ID. So whatever value is mapped to this ID, that is 0. Okay, 0 is mapped. So this is set. It will return true. Similarly, if you notice here, name 1, even though value is not present, it will have a null value. It will return a true. If you just if you are interested in checking whether there is a value or not, you have to use appropriate function. So for that we can use a different function. So what it will make sure that whether this key is present or not. If this key is present, then it will return a true. Notice the missing value of the parameter is still considered to be isSet. So isSet will send a true. Similarly, name 2, it will return a true, and isSet on name 3, it will return true, and we are checking isSet name 4. Name 4 is not present in the query string. That time it will return a false. So you have to be very careful how you want to use, whether you want to check particular control. Okay, whatever the name given to that control is present or not, you will use the is set. Then another function is there, that is a empty function. Empty function parameter is dollar underscore get, key is id, so it will return true. So even though there is a value of a 0, it will return true. 0 is not considered as a value. If there is any other 0 or null, then it will return true. If there is any other value, then it will return a false. Then second one, empty dollar get name 1. No, here you can see there is a null value. It returns a true. If you want to really check whether the value is set or not, you should be using empty. And empty dollar underscore get parameter name 2, it is returning false. Why it is returning false? Because there is some value for name 2. Similarly, for name 3, space is considered as a some value, so you will see it as a false. So space is also considered as a value, so it will return false. And if you see here, name 4, even though name 4 is not present, it will return it as a true. So you have to be very careful how you are going to use, whether your requirement to use a is set or empty. Accordingly, you should be able to use. Checking for a number. So how you will check for a number? You will check, first one is using the super global dollar underscore get. You will pass the key as ID, and this will return the value which ID is mapped to. That value is stored in the variable dollar ID. If empty dollar ID, so you have to be very careful. Empty, if this number is 0, and then also it will return. Okay, I will go to previous screen. See, if here empty you are checking for the ID, it returns true. Means even though the value is 0, it is returning a true. Means if you have a requirement of considering 0 also, then you have to think in some other way. So you will not be able to use this particular method. So empty dollar ID, if it returns true, then so that particular field is user has not given the input, so that true is converted into false. We have the a not sign here. So whenever it is false, it will come out, so means it is not a number. Or if there is a particular value given by the user, empty, user has given, let's say 250, empty 250, it will return false. That false, you are making it as a not, you are converting it as a true. So this part is true. Then it will check is underscore numeric. If user has given some alphanumeric here, then that will be caught here. Okay, it has to be a pure number. This will just check whether it is empty or not, means user has given some value or not. And second, is underscore numeric method, it will check if the input given is a number, then it will return true, otherwise it will return false. If user has given some value, and if that is a number, then only it will come inside. So that is how we can check the given number is a given input is a number or not. Exception versus errors. So an error is some type of a problem that generates a non-fatal warning message, or that generates an error message that terminates that program's execution. Okay. uh, uh, so what is the error? Either it is a warning, or it is a some kind of a fatal error which will terminate the program's execution. That is a error. For example, divide by 0 is a error. That is a runtime error. Suppose application is not able to connect to the database, that is a error, connection error. And what is the exception? Exception refers to objects that are of type exception. Okay, so this exception comes under the object oriented programming, which are used in conjunction with the object oriented try catch. So if you are aware of the try catch concept that is used in the Java language, this is also uses it in the exactly the same way. The mechanism is exactly same as that of Java. Okay, try catch language construct for dealing with the runtime errors. Okay, so what is the exception? Exception is nothing but it is a object, and it is object of type exception, and we can use this mechanism to deal with any kind of errors, whatever the errors that are being generated using the exception. Okay, exception handling, we can handle those errors. Let us say there is a connection error, so you can have a try and catch block for that particular code. And whenever the error comes, okay, whenever the connection error comes, the program will not abruptly stop. What it will do is exception, it will raise that exception inside the try and catch block. You can throw that exception. That exception will be caught by the catch block. Inside the catch block, you can take a corrective action. Let us say if you are not able to make a connection to the database, if there is a information stored in the file, maybe you can try to get the information from the file, or at least you can show some kind of a useful information on the page saying that at present the database is down, please check back after some time. So you can handle those things gracefully. So errors can be handled gracefully using the exception handling. Okay. PHP error reporting. PHP has a flexible and customizable system for reporting warnings and errors that can be set programmatically at runtime or declaratively at design time with the configuration file php.ini. So that is the configuration file. So in case of a PHP, we can either use it at the code level, okay, dynamically you can set that, or at the design level, that is you will specify that in the php.ini file. So it will read from the php.ini file, or if you want to change it programmatically, you can do both. So PHP gives that flexibility. And there are three main flags for error reporting. First one is the error underscore reporting flag. Next one is display underscore errors flag, then log underscore errors flag. So we will see how these three flags are utilized in the case of a error reporting. Okay. First one is the error underscore reporting setting. The error underscore reporting flag, this can be set in two ways. Either we can set it as in a PHP file, that is the php.ini file. Sorry, it can be set as a in the configuration file, that is php.ini file, or we can include it in as the part of our program. Either we can have it as programmatically, or we can set up in the configuration file. If you are setting the error underscore reporting inside the PHP file, this is how you are going to do it. So you will say error underscore reporting inside the bracket e underscore all, okay, close the bracket, semicolon. E underscore all, it represents a constant which represents all the errors. Same setting can be done in php.ini file like this. Error underscore reporting is equal to e underscore all. So there are two ways to do it. These are the constants, okay. E underscore all we just saw, which represents report all the errors and warnings. So it will report all the errors and all the warnings, and the value for this e underscore all is a constant. Value for that constant is 8191. Similarly, e underscore error, this is the constant name, the value is 1. Report all fatal runtime errors. Then third one is e underscore warning. The value is to report all non-fatal runtime errors, that is warning. And if you do not specify anything, that value is 0, considered as 0, no reporting. So basically you will not do any kind of a reporting. Why this is important? Sometimes warnings you want to suppress, because warnings are not fatal. You want to suppress it from displaying onto the browser, or you want to have some other mechanism for using the reporting, not to display on the uh, uh, browser, but have it logged. Okay, so it will go into either a log file, or also you can choose to email those warnings. Next flag is the display under error. How to do the settings? So similar to the error underscore reporting, display underscore errors can be set either programmatically, or it can be set in a configuration file. So programmatically, how to do that? We call the method ini underscore set. That method is called, the first parameter would be this flag display underscore errors, then 0. Basically what it tells is programmatically it will say don't display it on the browser. So you are stopping the display of the uh, errors on the browser. It can also be set with the php.ini file. How we will do that? The same flag display underscore errors. So you have to use these flags as is exactly. So these are how PHP will understand these flags. Display underscore errors is equal to off. Then third one is a log underscore error setting. Log underscore error setting, similar to the other flags. It can be either set programmatically or it can be set in the php.ini. Programmatically, you call the method ini underscore set. Inside the bracket, the first parameter is going to be the log underscore errors flag. Name should be exactly like this, and you are setting it. One means true, so you want to set the logging of the errors. You are setting it as true or 1. uh, Inside the php.ini file, how you will do it? You will say log underscore errors is equal to on. The location to store logs can be set programmatically. So when you say when you want to log the error, you have to log those errors in a certain file, right? Whatever the errors that are coming, that will be sent to the a file. How to do that? You will first you have to set the error underscore log with the log file. How to do that? ini underscore set error underscore log, and you are giving the relative path forward slash restricted forward slash, and this is the name of the log file, my dash errors dot log. That is the name given for the file. Any name you can give. So when you are giving the relative path, it will go from the root. So wherever you have the application, that it will take as a root, and inside that root it will look for a folder called restricted, and then it will have the log file inside this particular folder. And why we need to log the errors? If you want to debug, because web applications are used by thousands of, it depends on what kind of a web application you have or the website you have. It is visited by the many users, and they will do many operations on particular web application, and some of the actions will result errors, some of the actions will result warnings. So all those things you want to log them, so that you can go back and check the log, what kind of a error happened, what time happened, why this happened. So you can do the analysis of those, and potentially you can identify the bugs. So if there is a error, then definitely there is some kind of a bug in the code. So you can look for that bug and you can fix the code. And if it is a warning, you can take a corrective action for those warnings. And other ways to set the error underscore log is equal to it will be in php.ini file. Error underscore log is equal to, and then you do the path along with the log file name. Okay, you can programmatically send a message to the error log at any time via the error underscore log function. So once you have the all the settings done, then programmatically you can write into the log file. Let us say you have a certain error, and that particular error you want to write into the log. Okay, log file. Using error underscore log function, you can write those errors into the log file. This is one code example. Dollar message, some horrible error has occurred. So this is just a example. So you are taking this as a error message. So this particular message is a error message. Then send message to the system error log. You will call the method error underscore log. The first parameter would be the error message, and second one, this 0 indicates it will be sent to the default log files, whatever the log file you have set in the previous. So using this or this method, you have set the log file. So this is the default. When this function is called with a 0, this message will be written into this log file, my errors dot log, with a new line inside that file. It will write some horrible error has occurred. So if you go and read that log file, that information will be, this message will be available in that log file after this function completes execution. Second way is you can choose to email the error to some email ID. How to do that? You call the function error underscore log. First parameter is the message. Second one is the number one. Number one indicates the email should be sent, and where the email should be sent. Okay, this is the email ID where the message will be sent. This message will be sent to this email ID, support at abc.com. That is the third parameter. And the fourth parameter, whenever you are sending an email, there should be a from. Okay? So from some page.php at abc.com. So when user receives that, he will see the from as this email ID, and body of that email will contain the message, dollar message, whatever is the content. So this is the content that will be sent in the body of the email. And the third way is, let us say you don't want to put it into the default log file. You want to create a separate log file. So you can call this method error underscore log. First parameter is the message. Second, you have to give the second parameter as 3 if you want to write to some other file. Then third parameter would be the location of that file, and where it is located in the root folder. There is a folder called name foldar, and inside that there is a some file.log. Inside this log file, this message will be written. PHP error and exception handling. Okay. So, what is the one way of handling the error? Procedural error handling. One second. Okay. Procedurally, you can do the error handling. That is what we did in the lab experiment number 10. We did not use the exception handling. We use the procedure to handle the errors. Okay. uh, Here we are going to connect to the database. So in the experiment number 10, I showed you how to create the database instance, how to create the user, how to create the table, how to insert the data, and how to make a connection from the PHP code. So this particular step, dollar connection is equal to, this will create a connection to the database, MySQL database. This is the method we are going to use, MySQL I underscore connect. This is the name of the method, and we are going to send, these are the parameter. What is a DB host? This is the name of the server. Okay, name of the server or IP address. If you remember, we gave the local host because our database was residing in the same PC as the application web server. So we gave it as a local host, username, password, and this is the database instance name. If you remember, we created the database instance called web lab. Okay, and we created the web user as the user. So by giving these information, this will make a connection. This method will create a connection to the database and returns that connection object. And dollar connection, this variable will be having a reference to that particular connection object. Now, to check the error, whether after executing that, to see whether there was any error or not, we called MySQL I underscore connect underscore error method. If there are any errors, that error will be that particular error message will be assigned to this variable dollar error. If connection is successful, then it will have a null. So null will be assigned. Then what you will do procedurally, you will check if dollar error not equal to null. If dollar error not equal to null means what? It has some error. Okay, some error message means the connection was not done. That means if this is true, then we will handle the error. So I told there is a various ways according to your requirement. If database is not up and running, maybe you will connect to some file and you will show the whatever the user requested information, or you will put a message saying that at this particular time database is down. So that message you can include here. If the connection is successful, then it will be having a null. Null not equal to null. Okay, this is false. It will go with the rest of the code. This is how we can handle the error using the some kind of a procedure. Object oriented exception handling. When runtime error occurs, PHP throws an exception. Whenever there is a runtime error, the PHP will throw an exception. And exception is, what is the exception? Exception is nothing but it is a object of type exception. This exception can be caught and handled either by the function, class, or the page that generated the exception, or by the code that called the function or class. So where the exceptions are thrown, whenever there is an error, exceptions are thrown. And where we can catch those exception, either the function which has caused that error, either it can catch that, or it can be caught by the class, or it can be caught by the page. So it can be caught at any level. If exception is not caught, then eventually PHP environment will handle it by terminating the execution with uncaught exception. So whenever there is a error, so let us say we have a piece of a block, there is the exception that was thrown. If that block doesn't catch and handle, then the parent block, whatever is the parent block, that has to catch that exception and handle it. If that parent, if let us say that parent has another grandparent, the grandparent, if the parent doesn't handle it, the grandparent block has to catch that particular exception and handle it. Let us say you are not catching the exception, then what will happen? The PHP environment will handle that. It will handle all the uncaught exception, but what it will terminate the application, and it will give uncaught exception message. This is the example. Okay, so exception throwing function. So this is a particular code where we are having this function which will throw the exception. Function throw exception. These are the two parameters. Dollar message, by default it is null. Dollar code, by default it is null, means if the value is not passed to this function, these both the values would be null. And inside throw, this is how we, if you remember in Java, we use the same keyword throw to throw an exception. Throw, and the next two words are nothing but it is creating an exception object. So how to create an exception object? New, this is the name of the class, exception. Inside the bracket you are going to pass the two values, dollar message and dollar code. If it is not given, you are going to send it as a null. So this action will create a new exception object, and it will be thrown. And where it is thrown, wherever you call this function, exception will be thrown there. Now we have a piece of a PHP code. I have a try block and a catch block. Try block opens with a curly brace, closes with a curly brace, and inside I will have the set of code that will be monitored for the any kind of a exception. So what are the code I have? I have just the one line. Dollar connection is equal to MySQL I underscore connect, and I'm passing this parameter. If this connection is not done, or, okay, so you have or, if it is not done, then throw exception, and you are passing a message as error. So if connection is not, if this is not done, then it will throw an exception. When you call this throw exception, the function call will come here. The dollar message will have a value as error, and it will create throw new exception. This would be error, this value would be error, and this would be null. So it will create a new object of exception, and it will throw. Once it is thrown, it will be catch here. Catch exception. This is the variable. Okay, this is the what you are trying to catch. So when your program is catching, the dollar $e will have the reference to the object which is thrown. And we can have a broader class exception. So capital EXCEPTION, this is the a broader exception. This is the highest level of exception. Inside that you can have a lower level exceptions. So when you say exception, it will catch all kinds of exception. So this, when this throws, let us say the connection is not done, then it will throw the exception. It would be caught in the catch block. Okay, inside the catch block, you will what you will take some corrective actions, or whatever the actions you want to take will go into the catch block. What in this particular case we are doing, echo caught exception dot dollar e pointing to get message. Okay, so there is a method called get message in the exception object that will get the error message. So you are displaying error message, dot will concatenate. So caught exception colon, then it will display the error message. In this case, what is the message? It is nothing but error. So it will show error. Echo on line. Okay, this is just a string dot, and you are calling a get line method on the exception object. Get line will get you where you got that error, which line number it will get. So whatever is the corresponding line for this code, that will be displayed here. Then echo stack trace. So whatever is in the stack trace, that will be displayed. Print underscore r, and you are calling get trace method of the exception object. So it will display the stack trace. So using the stack trace, you will know how the error, like what is the way the error was generated. And then we have, this is the opening of the catch block, and this is the closing of the catch block. And optionally you can have the finally block. So finally block, what will finally block will do, uh, irrespective of there is a error or not. Okay, this particular finally block will get executed. Let us say in particular case there is no error, we are able to make a connection, so no exception is thrown. That time catch block will not get executed. Directly it will go to finally block and it will get executed. Let us say another scenario where there is a error. So throw exception is called, exception is thrown at this line, that will be caught by the catch block. So code execution will come inside the catch block, all these lines will be executed. Again it will come to finally block, and it will execute the finally block. So finally block is optional. Any code within it will always be executed after the code in the try or in the catch block, even if the code contains a return statement. So irrespective of no matter what, the finally block is always, it will get executed. And the support for the finally block is available from the PHP version 5.5 and later. So we can throw our own exceptions. This is the code. This is a try block and catch exception. Then you are specifying the exception variable. Then inside that you can see throw $e. Let us say there is some exception that is caught inside here, and once the exception is thrown in the try block, it will be caught by the catch block, and inside the catch block you can rethrow that particular exception. Let us say a particular exception you want to catch, you want to take certain action, and then you rethrow it. Why you are rethrowing? Let us say there is a requirement for the child block to have certain corrective actions. Also the parent block, which is calling this, needs to take corrective action. The parent block will also catch this exception. When it is thrown by the child block, parent will have the catch block, which will catch this exception, and it will have its own corrective measures. Okay, custom handlers. What should custom error or execution handler do? It should provide the developer with a detailed information. So it is basically you are creating your own handler. Okay, exception handler, where the developer will get more information, or very detailed information about the state of the application when the exception occurred, information about the exception and when it happened. So all the information regarding the particular exception will be given in this particular handler. It should hide any of those details from the regular end user, and instead provide user with a generic message such as sorry but there was a problem. So I told you we should not be displaying these kind of errors on the user screen. For example, if there is a database connection problem, the same error should not be displayed. User will not understand what happened. Instead, you can say like there is some problem with the database connection. Please come back in some time. So that kind of a user-friendly message you can display. Once a handler function is defined, it must be registered using the following code. So once you create a handler, so these are exception handler, we have to register it. How to register? Set underscore exception underscore handler. This is the method that is used to register the exception handler, and then you will give the name of the handler. So you have given the name of the handler as my underscore exception underscore handler, and followed by a semicolon. My underscore exception underscore handler, that is the a name that you gave. Okay, that is what you are registering. Okay, with set underscore exception underscore handler function. Okay, here you are passing the parameter is the dollar exception, that is the object that it will get, and inside we are putting a detailed message of the exception. First, dollar message is equal to this is the paragraph, start of the paragraph. This is the end of the paragraph. Inside, I have a text exception number. Then I am calling the get code on the exception object. It will display that code, whatever the error code is there. Then we are concatenating message dot is equal to, what is dot is equal to? Dollar message dot is equal to means dollar message is equal to dollar message dot this string, means we are concatenating everything until this, from here to here we are concatenating the values. Then on the dollar exception object we are calling the get message method. Get message will get the error message, and you are saying occurred on line, then you will get the line number. So line number you are making bold, strong HTML tags are there. And you are calling the get line method on the exception object. After that, and in the file, what file the error occurred, again with the strong HTML tag, you are calling the get file on the exception object. So inside the exception object we have the error code, we have the error message, we have what line the error occurred, and inside what file. There are so many PHP files, right? When you are working on a real application, hundreds of PHP files are there. In which PHP file we got the error, all those information will be displayed here. So this dollar message will have exception number, some number, then it will give the error message occurred on line, it will give the line number, and in the file it will specify which PHP file it got the error. Email error message, so you can choose to send it as a email. We already saw how to do that. We have to use this function error underscore log. You will send the dollar message. You can see the dollar message is consisting of all the details. Dollar message one is the number we are using for the email, and this is the email ID to which the message will be sent, and it will be sent from this email ID. Okay, if exception is serious, if you want to terminate the program, you can call the die method. Okay, if the get code, so if it is other than e underscore notice, if any error code which is not e underscore notice, then you will choose to call the die method, where it will terminate the processing, and it will display sorry, the system is down for maintenance, please try again soon. That is how it will provide the message. That completes module 4.